My name is Taylor Rose and welcome back to my channel where we talk about everything reading and writing. So today's another book review, Painted Devils by Margaret Owen. If you have not read the first book, Little Thieves, I don't think it is strictly essential to reading this book. The events are pretty separate. Little Thieves closed most of the storylines that were within it. Painted Devils is kind of completely new plot. The romance is continuing. This book currently has 7,362 ratings on Goodreads with an average of 4.23. So almost the same rating as the first book, Little Thieves. A lot less reviews currently. For me, this was a 4-star read. There were a few issues that I just couldn't get over that made the experience less enjoyable, but it was still really cute. It is a YA fantasy. The first book was a fairy tale retelling. This one doesn't seem to be carrying that onwards at all or introducing a new fairy tale at all. So unfortunately, that's not really an aspect. But it does continue really strong with the LGBTQA plus representation, in my opinion, in side characters. So I'm gonna read the synopsis for you. Let's get one thing straight. Vanya Schmidt wasn't trying to start a cult. After taking down a corrupt Margrave, breaking a deadly curse, and finding romance with the vexingly scrupulous junior prefect Emmerich Conrad, Vanya had one great mystery left, her long-lost birth family, and if they would welcome a thief. But in her search for an honest trade, she hit trouble and invented a god, the Scarlet Maiden, to scam her way out. Now that lie is growing out of control, especially when Emmerich arrives to investigate, and the Scarlet Maiden manifests to claim him as a virgin sacrifice. For his final test to become a prefect, Emmerich must determine if Vanya is guilty of serious fraud, or if the secret maiden and her claim to him are genuine. Meanwhile, Vanya is chasing an alternate sacrifice that may be their way out. The hunt leads her not only into the lair of monsters and the path of gods, but the ties of her past. And with what should be the simplest way to save Emmerich hanging over their heads, he and Vanya must face a more dangerous question. Is there a future for a thief and a prefect, and at what price? Just like Little Thieves, Painted Devils is, in my opinion, really comedic. There's a lot of witty dialogue and funny situations that they find themselves in. Compared to the first book, I did kind of feel like there are a few antagonists at play in this story. One of them I thought kind of had not really apparent motivation until the very end when Vanya spells it out. I think maybe if there were a scene or two more with that character demonstrating why they're being antagonistic towards the main characters, that probably would have gone over better with me. But it is what it is. Unfortunately, my favorite character, Rain, only makes a few appearances, but there's a whole new cast of side characters to follow around. The world building is expanded on more in this book, especially around cultural norms and like religious practices, which definitely feel a little more unique than the first book in terms of being essentially a knockoff of Germany, but that's just me being petty. I thought Emmerich really shined in this book. He was so sweet, but still, his usual type A self. One thing that I did not really like about this book is how much focus was put on their intimate relationship. I understand why, given that Emmerich is a virgin sacrifice, and they are told if something happens between them, he's no longer valid as a sacrifice. Hence the alternative option that they are hunting down. However, like I mentioned in my review for Little Thieves, there's just too much focus on them somehow not being normal. And I don't really know how I feel about the contrast. It is regularly insinuated that normal people just leap into bed at the first opportunity with someone they meet. And I don't think that's reality. I don't think that's reality. For some people, sure. For the majority of the population, for everyone to somehow think it's weird that two 17-year-olds are inexperienced, I don't know. If you watched one of my previous videos talking about spice with minors, this book actually is not spicy. There's a lot of fluff, closed door. They'll have conversations. that are like educational in nature. So like I thought this was really well done. You still get the emotional building in their relationship, seeing how they grow closer to one another. I just don't think it was really framed, I don't want to say correctly, but they're making a big deal out of something that's not important. Like, essentially, when Scarlet Maiden announces to everyone that, like, he's my, he's my sacrifice because he's a virgin, and he gets so upset that everyone finds out. And it's like, dude, you're a young teenager who has been essentially training to be a detective, right? Like a religious detective, the prefect. Since you were 10 years old, you immediately get booked off to a school filled with adults. That's not unusual, and I don't know why it was such a big deal. I don't get it. I didn't get it. I'm going to be talking a little bit more in depth about the story, so if you want to avoid any spoilers, you should probably stop here. I'll try not to spoil the entire thing, but if you're sensitive to that, I'll see you in the next video. So essentially, the setup of this book is 2 months after Little Thieves. Emmerich has had to go to a different city for like to start the next exam for him to like become a full prefect. And Vanya said she would follow after him, but she essentially just ditched him to go drink around in the countryside because she feels like he's like this paragon of accomplishment, like he's the youngest prefect ever, like he's so smart and people look up to him, and then I'm just this like ex-servant thief girl, which I understand. Would I personally choose to just drink it up in the countryside and avoid things? Maybe not, but that's what she did. Because she was turned into rubies and pearls in the last book, she has taken all of those now after she was resurrected, essentially, and is living off of them. But she is super drunk and drops them into a river. And instead of just asking people for help, obviously, because they would probably steal things, she convinces them that she had a vision of this god, the Scarlet Maiden, which is based off of a folktale in their area, the Red Maid of the River, that the goddess is asking for rubies to be returned. Everyone chips in and helps her and essentially refuse to let her leave, and it turns into this cult. So it's been 3-ish months since she last saw Emmerich when he shows up to investigate this cult. And of course it's super awkward because she ditched him without word, basically. Like she sent him a letter and then never contacted him again. And like, that's fine. I liked seeing how they dealt with that emotional issue. I did think Vanya was being pretty stupid, but I'm saying that as an adult on anxiety medication. So one thing, so I mentioned earlier, one of the antagonists is Emmerich's sort of tutor slash proctor. Like she's making, Kirkling is making sure that he properly conducts the investigation and is like rating him basically to pass or fail him for becoming a prefect. And she just felt kind of hollow, like she was being mean for no clear reason until the very end when Vanya was like, I know why you've been doing this. And it's like, how'd you figure it out? Because there were like 2 crumbs leading you in that direction. One thing that I didn't really get is that the Scarlet Maiden, right? She wants Emmerich. But if she can't have Emmerich, she told Vanya, you need the blood of 7 brothers on this cloth, and I can use that as an alternative power source. So Vanya immediately doesn't question it. She doesn't question it at all. She asks around. Her 3 new friends are like, oh, we have 7 brothers. You can get our blood. Here's where everyone lives. And she's like, okay, we're gonna go out and get their blood. And she doesn't even question why the Scarlet Maiden would want the blood. Given the fact that she wants Emmerich to throw him into the mouth of a giant wolf demon, they don't even question like how this blood could be used negatively. And all the brothers just give the blood. Like you find out why they're giving her the blood later, but it's just kind of like none of them express any concern. They're just like, yeah, it'll be fine. When realistically, I think living in this world, people would be like, are you sure I'll be safe? No one has any concerns for themselves until about 75% of the way through, when all of a sudden Vanya's like, oh no, what if collecting this blood could hurt all these people? And it's like, yeah, that should have been the first question out of your mouth, girl. That, I did not like that at all. It also comes out that one of the brothers is trans, which, like, that's fine. But I am curious. Once you find out who the Scarlet Maiden is, I just wonder how she knew, because I don't want to spoil it too much. But essentially, like, when did she learn this information? That daughter is now son. I don't know. I feel like that was a plot hole. And I'm not going to say more because I remember being shocked. Like, oh my God. But then it was like, how did that work then? How did that work? I did really like the adventures they got into to find all 7 brothers, but they all kind of led to Vanya thinking the same thing over and over and over. I don't know if there's a future between me and Emmerich, because Emmerich is essentially a police officer and I'm a thief. I don't know if we can actually be together. It's gonna look bad on him that he's with a criminal when, okay. But she just keeps thinking this, keeps thinking this, keeps thinking this until the end of the book, when, spoiler, not spoiler, things are supposed to be wrapped up. I would have expected her to be like, see, everything worked out. It's fine. Like, we can be together. And then, plot twist, oh no, things go wrong, to lead you into the 3rd book. Instead, she's like, I don't know how any of this is going to work out. They finally consummate their relationship. And then immediately she's like, I was right. Things aren't going to work out. And it's like, what? You've made this whole big deal about needing to be emotionally ready and committed. And like one major issue in their relationship through this book is that she finds out that prefects are supposed to be celibate for a year after becoming a prefect. And she's like, you were just going to hook up with me and then ditch me after this finding is finished? And of course he's like, no, that's not at all what I was thinking. That's why I didn't mention it, because it wasn't going to be an issue. Like, I wasn't going to do it. Like, I wasn't going to follow that rule, essentially. But then that's what she does to him at the end. That's what she does to him at the end. She's like, oh, I'm out of here. After they've had all these like heartfelt conversations about what they mean to each other and like what physicality means, blah, blah, blah. And she just swoops out. I don't know. I just found it really disappointing. Like, I wouldn't have been upset by the ending if she weren't so negative the entire time and then have absolutely no reflection on the fact that she's doing exactly what she told him not to do to her. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. So kind of how that all tied up is definitely why I only gave this 4 stars, unfortunately. And I'm just feeling really nervous about the final book, Holy Terrors, because where could it go from here? Obviously, it's the 3rd book. Like, they have to end up together, or I don't want to say because then people will be upset, but like, you're supposed to be yes, no, no. Usually it's no, yes, no, or yes, no, yes. I guess we'll see. Holy Terrors is currently only for purchase. It's not on Kindle Unlimited. And I have been ordered by multiple people to start reading The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. And they provided me with the book. So I'm kind of like, I'm going to disappoint them and go and spend $15. Or read their book first and then treat myself after. We'll see what I end up deciding. Did you have the same issues as me reading Painted Devils? Let me know in the comments down below. Well, that's it for today. I will see you next time.